Ethan, an 18-year-old young man, was walking down the main avenue of the city on a bright autumn afternoon. Life had not been easy for him. His father, a respected police officer, had died heroically in the line of duty, and his mother, Isabella, suffered from severe kidney disease. Despite these adversities, Ethan had matured quickly, becoming a young man with a strong sense of justice and responsibility. As he made his way down the bustling street, Ethan noticed an uncomfortable situation in front of a local restaurant known for its home-cooked meals. The owner, Rick, a burly man with a voice that resonated with authority and impatience, was yelling at an elderly black couple, Evelyn and Henry. Dressed in simple but clean clothes, the couple cowered under Rick's stern gaze and the hurtful words of some customers present, including Arnold, Rick's son. "And I'm telling you again," Rick shouted, pointing a threatening finger at the couple. "If you can't pay, you shouldn't eat in places like mine. This is not a charity, it's a business." Rick's eyes sparkled with contempt as customers murmured in approval. Evelyn, with her white hair and tear-filled eyes, tried to explain herself. "Please, sir, I swear we brought the money. It must have fallen somewhere. Just give us a moment to look for it." Henry, beside her, with a worn hat and trembling hands, searched his empty pockets, desperation growing on his weathered face. "It may have fallen out when we got out of the taxi, Evelyn," he whispered, his voice weak with worry. "Black people like you always have excuses," exclaimed one of the customers, his voice laced with racism. "You should know your place and not bother decent people." It was then that Ethan, driven by a burst of justice and compassion, approached the group. His youthful presence contrasted with the tension of the moment. With surprising determination, he interrupted the heated argument. "Sir, this is not right. You can't treat them like this. They are elderly, and it clearly wasn't intentional," Ethan said, confronting Rick with a firmness that made the man hesitate. Rick, taken aback by the interruption, turned to Ethan with a mixture of irritation and disdain. "And who are you? Their lawyer. Don't get involved where you're not wanted, kid." Ignoring Rick's tone, Ethan continued, "I'll pay their bill. How much is it?" His heart was pounding, but his voice remained calm and determined. Rick's expression softened slightly, realizing the opportunity to resolve the situation without further complications. "It's $25, he replied, crossing his arms as he watched Ethan pull the money from his wallet. The couple looked at Ethan with a mixture of gratitude and surprise. Evelyn, with tears in her eyes, held Ethan's hand. "Oh dear, you didn't have to do that. We'll find the money." "Don't worry," said Ethan with a gentle smile. "Consider it a gift. We all need help sometimes." After paying the bill, Ethan helped the couple leave the restaurant, his own thoughts revolving around the birthday present he was planning to buy for Alice. He knew that the money he had just used was intended for that, but something inside him told him that he had made the right decision. As they moved away from the bustle of the restaurant, Evelyn and Henry repeatedly thanked Ethan for his kindness. Their words of gratitude resonated with the young man, strengthening his conviction that he had done the right thing. The chapter concludes with Ethan saying goodbye to the couple, promising them that everything would be okay. As he walked away, Ethan felt lighter, despite the upcoming difficult conversation he would have with Alice. He couldn't help but think that this unexpected act of kindness could be the start of something more meaningful in his life. Music echoed from Alice's house, filling the afternoon with laughter and cheerful voices. Colorful balloons and bright garlands adorned the garden, announcing her birthday celebration. Ethan walked toward the house, his steps slow and his heart heavy. The feeling of having done the right thing by helping the elderly couple gave him inner peace, but now he faced the reality of arriving without the gift he had promised. As he crossed the threshold, he was greeted by a wave of sounds and movement. Alice's friends were laughing and dancing, enjoying the party. Ethan looked for Alice among the crowd, his mind filled with contradictory thoughts. Finally, he saw her, radiant in a sky-blue dress, surrounded by her friends. "Ethan!" Alice shouted when she saw him. "I'm so glad you came!" She approached him with a smile, but noticing his empty hands, her expression quickly changed. "Where's my present?" Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the discomfort grow inside him. "Alice, I need to talk to you in private," he said, his voice soft but laced with urgency. Alice frowned, curious and slightly concerned. Without a word, she followed him to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the other guests. "Alice, I couldn't buy your present," Ethan began, trying to maintain his composure. Alice's face transformed instantly, her brows furrowing in an expression of confusion and disappointment. "What do you mean you didn't buy it?" "Ethan, you know today is a very important day for me," she said, her voice rising slightly. Ethan nodded, aware of the weight of his words. "I know, and I really wanted to get you something special, but something happened yesterday. An elderly couple was being treated very badly because they couldn't pay their bill at a restaurant. I felt like I had to help." Alice listened to him, but her expression grew more and more closed off. "So you used the money for my present to pay the bill of two strangers?" Her voice was incredulous, mixing irritation and shame. "Yes, I did, because it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. I didn't want their day to end badly over something as small as money," Ethan explained, trying to convey his sincerity. Alice crossed her arms, her posture hardening and her eyes turning cold. "Ethan, I understand being kind and all, but today was about us. You knew how much I was looking forward to this day. How could you think it was okay to come here empty-handed? You've embarrassed me." The argument began to attract some curious glances from the other guests. Ethan felt everyone's eyes on them, increasing the tension of the moment. "Alice, I'm so sorry. I really thought I was doing the right thing." Alice shook her head, clearly disappointed. "I think it's best if we end this here," she said coldly, before turning around and returning to the party, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts and a broken heart. Ethan stood there, watching the woman he thought he knew walk away from him. The weight of his decision and the consequences of his actions left him in a reflective state as he pondered the true value of human relationships and the complexity of the choices we make. He knew he had acted according to his principles, but now he faced the harsh reality of the personal repercussions. As the party continued around him, Ethan slowly walked out of the garden, his steps heavy and his mind swirling with emotions. He headed home, thinking of his mother and the promise he had made to always do the right thing, no matter the cost. Tears did not fall, but the sadness was palpable on his young but responsibility-marked face. It was a grey and cloudy afternoon when Ethan decided to take a walk downtown. The streets were crowded with hurried people, each immersed in their own world. Ethan, with his hands in his pockets and his mind lost in thought, walked aimlessly, trying to find some peace after the incident at Alice's party. Suddenly, a familiar noise caught his attention, raised voices and a tone of violence that made his heart beat faster. As he got closer, he saw a group of young people surrounding Evelyn and Henry, the elderly couple he had helped days before. Among them was Arnold, the son of Rick, the restaurant owner. "Get out of here, old man," Arnold shouted, shoving Henry. "This is no place for people like you." Ethan felt a surge of indignation and anger. The insults were even worse this time, full of racial hatred and contempt. Without thinking twice, he approached the group, his youthful and determined presence contrasting with the violence of the moment. "Stop it," Ethan shouted, placing himself between the elderly couple and the young men. "I won't let you treat them like this." Arnold looked at him with contempt and mockery. "You again? Haven't you learned not to meddle in other people's business?" "It's my business when I see innocent people being abused," Ethan replied, his voice firm despite the fear he felt. The young men stepped closer, surrounding Ethan. The tension in the air was palpable, and words turned into shoves. Ethan, though he knew he was at a disadvantage, did not back down. He used all his strength and courage to defend Evelyn and Henry, exchanging blows with the aggressors. The confrontation quickly turned physical. Ethan received several blows, but his determination did not waver. His bravery began to intimidate the young men, who did not expect such resistance. Little by little, the aggressors began to back down, surprised by Ethan's tenacity. "Let's get out of here," shouted one of the young men, and one by one they dispersed, leaving Arnold alone. Arnold glared at Ethan with hatred, but seeing that he was alone, he decided to leave as well, casting one last look of contempt before disappearing around the corner. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the sting of the blows, but also an inner satisfaction for having protected the elderly couple. He turned to Evelyn and Henry, who looked at him with eyes full of gratitude and admiration. "Thank you, Ethan," Henry said, his voice trembling. "We don't know how to thank you." Ethan shook his head, trying to downplay it. "You don't have to thank me. I just did what any person should do." Evelyn approached him and placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes shining with tears. "You are an extraordinary young man." Together, they headed to a safer place. Ethan helped them hail a taxi, making sure they were okay before saying goodbye. As he watched them drive away, he felt a deep connection with them, as if fate had brought them together in some way. Walking back home, Ethan reflected on what had happened. He knew that confronting people like Arnold and his friends was not easy, but he also knew that he could not stand idly by in the face of injustice. The incident left him bruised, but his spirit was stronger than ever. When he got home, he found his mother waiting for him in the kitchen, her face full of concern when she saw the marks of the fight. "Ethan, what happened to you?" Isabella asked, approaching him to examine his wounds. "I just had a little altercation, Mom. But I'm fine," Ethan replied, trying to downplay it. Isabella looked at him with a mixture of sadness and pride. "You have your father's heart, always doing the right thing no matter the cost." As he prepared for bed, Ethan thought of Evelyn and Henry, and the promise he had made to himself to always protect the innocent and fight against injustice. He closed his eyes, ready to face a new day, knowing that every action counts, and that every battle is important in the fight for a more just and compassionate world. Days had passed since the confrontation with Arnold and his friends, and although the physical wounds had healed, the scars of the experience were still present in his mind. Today, however, he was on his way to a different place. He had received an invitation from Evelyn and Henry to visit their home. Upon arriving at a modest but cozy house, Ethan was greeted with warm smiles. Evelyn and Henry, despite their apparent simplicity, had an air of dignity and strength. "Thank you for coming, Ethan," Henry said as he led him inside. "We want to talk to you about something important." Seated in a small living room, decorated with family photos and mementos, Evelyn spoke. "Ethan, we've seen your bravery and compassion on several occasions. You've helped us without expecting anything in return, and that speaks volumes about your character." Ethan felt a little uncomfortable with the praise, but nodded, listening intently. "The truth, Ethan," Henry continued, "is that we are not as poor as we seem. We have lived modestly to find someone truly worthy of our help." Ethan blinked, surprised. He didn't know what to say. "We want to offer you a job at our company," Evelyn said. "In addition, we want to cover all of your mother's medical expenses." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The proposal was incredible, more than he had imagined. He thought of his mother, the difficulties they faced, and felt a deep gratitude. "I don't know what to say," Ethan began, his voice trembling with emotion. "This is more than I could have ever dreamed of. Thank you, truly." "You deserve it, Ethan," Henry replied with a smile. "We know you'll do a great job." The following days were a whirlwind of new beginnings and responsibilities. Ethan immersed himself in his new job with fierce determination. His day began early, dividing his time between school, work, and caring for his mother. At the company, Ethan discovered a new world. Evelyn and Henry's business was not only prosperous, but also committed to social causes. He learned about management, finance, and, most importantly, about corporate social responsibility. Every morning after dropping his mother off at the medical center for her treatment, Ethan would head to the office. His first day was filled with introductions and training. Evelyn and Henry patiently guided him, teaching him the details of his new role. "The key to success is not just in the numbers, Ethan," Henry told him one day as they reviewed a report. "It's in how we treat people and the positive impact we can have on the community." Ethan absorbed every lesson, determined to apply those principles in his work. Despite the long hours and the weight of his responsibilities, he never complained. His mother, although weak, gave him strength with her smile and words of encouragement. "I'm very proud of you, son," Isabella would say, every time Ethan came home exhausted but satisfied. "I know your father would be too." Weeks turned into months, and Ethan began to see the fruits of his effort. Not only was he excelling at his job, but he was also managing to maintain his grades in school. His colleagues respected him, and his bosses admired him for his work ethic and dedication. One day, while reviewing some documents, Evelyn approached his desk. "Ethan, we've noticed your progress, and we want to give you more responsibilities. We believe you're ready to lead an important project." Ethan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He accepted the challenge, knowing that it was an opportunity to prove himself and continue helping his mother. Ethan's life was full of challenges, but also rewards. Every day was a test of his strength and resilience. Through his work, he not only supported his family, but he also made a difference in the lives of others. Every night when he returned home, he reflected on everything he had learned and accomplished. He knew that thanks to Evelyn and Henry, he had the opportunity to build a better future for himself and his mother. Years passed, and Ethan became a key figure within Evelyn and Henry's company. His dedication and work ethic set him apart from the beginning, and his efforts began to bear visible fruit. Every day, Ethan arrived at the office early, ready to face new challenges and contribute fresh ideas. From the start, Ethan displayed a natural talent for management and innovation. One of his first significant contributions was the implementation of a more efficient management system that improved productivity and reduced operating costs. This initiative not only earned him the recognition of his colleagues, but also of Evelyn and Henry themselves, who saw him as a rising leader. "Ethan, your ability to see beyond the obvious and propose effective solutions is impressive," Evelyn told him during a meeting. "We are very proud of your progress." The company thrived under his leadership, and Ethan took on increasingly important projects. A significant milestone in his career was the launch of a corporate social responsibility campaign that not only improved the company's image, but also positively impacted the local community. He organized scholarship programs, hospital donations, and environmental sustainability projects that attracted industry and media attention. Recognition was not long in coming. Ethan was invited to conferences and seminars as a speaker, where he shared his experiences and knowledge about business management and social responsibility. His colleagues admired him for his vision and ability to inspire others. "Ethan, how do you come up with all these ideas?" one of his colleagues once asked him. "You're always one step ahead." "I think it all comes down to observing and listening," Ethan replied modestly. "Sometimes the best ideas come from people's needs and desires." Meanwhile, his mother's health, Isabella, was improving thanks to the medical care they could now afford. Seeing his mother stronger and healthier gave Ethan a personal satisfaction that no professional achievement could match. The evenings they spent together were moments of tranquility and joy, a reminder of why he worked so hard. Despite his work responsibilities, Ethan never neglected his studies. He graduated with honors and continued his education by attending courses and seminars that broadened his knowledge and skills. He knew that continuous learning was key to staying relevant in an ever-changing world. Over time, Ethan became CEO, a role he accepted with humility and determination. He continued to foster an inclusive and collaborative work environment where every team member felt valued and motivated to do their best. Ethan also found fulfillment and balance in his personal life. The evenings he spent reading or enjoying a quiet dinner with his mother were a balm for the daily hustle and bustle. Although his achievements were many, he always kept his feet on the ground, remembering Evelyn and Henry's teachings about the importance of humility and service to others. A culminating moment in his career came when the company received a prestigious award for excellence in corporate social responsibility. In his acceptance speech, Ethan thanked his team and mentors, emphasizing that true success lies in the ability to make a positive impact on the lives of others. "This award reflects the hard work and dedication of everyone in this company," Ethan said, holding the trophy. "We will continue striving to be a force for good in our community and in the world." It was a bright, sunny day when the news reached Ethan's office. Everything seemed to be in its place. However, an unexpected phone call plunged him into a nightmare. "Ethan," said an unknown voice on the other end of the line, "this is Officer Ramirez. I'm sorry to inform you that Evelyn and Henry have been in a serious car accident. They are in critical condition at the hospital." Ethan felt the world crumble around him. He dropped everything and rushed to the hospital. Every second on the road was an eternity. His mind flooded with thoughts and memories. Evelyn and Henry were more than mentors to him. They were like his grandparents, his family. Upon arriving at the hospital, he was met by a doctor with a grim expression. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. We did everything we could, but Evelyn and Henry didn't survive the accident." Ethan felt a blow to his chest, as if the air had been knocked out of his lungs. Tears welled up in his eyes as he tried to process the doctor's words. The hospital waiting room, with its fluorescent light and the smell of disinfectant, became a place of indescribable pain. "It can't be," Ethan murmured, his voice trembling. "They can't be gone. I need to see them." He was taken to a room where Evelyn and Henry's bodies lay in peace. Ethan approached, his hands shaking. Memories of all the moments they had shared flashed through his mind. They had been his guides, his unconditional support. "Thank you for everything you did for me," he whispered, his voice breaking with grief. "I promise I will find the truth and seek justice." The funeral was a somber event, filled with friends and colleagues who came to pay their respects. Ethan, his face etched with sadness, received condolences and hugs, but nothing could ease the void in his heart. Every word of comfort seemed distant and empty. In the days that followed, the office felt the absence of Evelyn and Henry like a constant shadow. Ethan tried to maintain his composure, but every corner of the place reminded him of them. Grief and a sense of injustice consumed him. "Ethan, take some time off if you need it," a colleague suggested. "We all understand what you're going through." But Ethan couldn't bring himself to stop. He knew he had to find out what had really happened. He began investigating the accident with fierce determination. He visited the crash site, spoke to witnesses, and reviewed police reports. Something didn't add up. "The road was clear," said one of the witnesses. "There was no reason for the car to swerve like that." Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the tragedy that had claimed the lives of Evelyn and Henry. Sadness and anger mixed within him, pushing him to seek answers. He knew that the only way to honor the memory of his beloved mentors was to uncover the truth behind the accident. Determined, Ethan began his investigation. Using his connections in the company and his network of contacts, he immersed himself in the details of the case. He had heard rumors about the involvement of Arnold, Rick's son, and he couldn't ignore the possibility that there was more to the accident than met the eye. First, he spoke to Officer Ramirez, who had been in charge of the accident scene. "Officer Ramirez, I need to know everything you can about the accident," Ethan said firmly. "I know something's not right." The officer looked at him with understanding and nodded. "I understand your concern, Ethan. The accident seemed like a simple case of losing control." Ethan reviewed the reports meticulously, searching for any clues that might have been overlooked. Afterward, he decided to speak with some witnesses to the accident. He located a man who had been near the scene at the time of the incident. "Yes, I remember seeing a car speeding just before the crash," said the witness. "It seemed like the driver was out of control." "Could you describe the car or the driver?" asked Ethan, trying to remain calm. "It was a black car, a sedan. I didn't get a clear look at the driver, but I did notice that the car seemed to be swerving." Ethan thanked the witness and noted all the details. He knew he would need more evidence to build a solid case. He decided to look for security cameras in the area that might have captured the accident. After several days of searching, he found a camera at a nearby store that had recorded part of the incident. The video clearly showed a black car zigzagging down the road just before the crash. Zooming in on the image, Ethan could make out the car's license plate. It belonged to Arnold. His blood boiled as he saw the evidence, but he knew he had to stay focused. Armed with this new information, Ethan contacted a forensic expert to analyze the video and the accident reports. The expert confirmed that the car's behavior was consistent with someone driving under the influence of alcohol. "This confirms our suspicions," said the expert. "The driver was clearly impaired." Armed with this evidence, Ethan faced obstacles and resistance. Some in the company and the community tried to dissuade him from going forward, fearing the repercussions. "Ethan, this could damage our reputation," said one colleague. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" "This isn't about reputation," Ethan replied firmly. "It's about justice for Evelyn and Henry. I can't ignore what I've found." Ethan's determination did not waver. He continued gathering witness statements and more forensic evidence. Finally, he felt ready to confront Arnold. He knew this confrontation would be difficult, but he was determined to do the right thing. He went to Arnold's house one afternoon, his heart pounding. Upon arriving, he knocked on the door decisively. Arnold opened the door, his expression changing from surprise to defiance as he saw Ethan. "What do you want?" Arnold asked contemptuously. "We need to talk, Arnold," Ethan said, entering without waiting for an invitation. "I know you were the one who caused the accident." Arnold looked at him incredulously, But Ethan stood his ground. He took out the evidence he had gathered and placed it on the table. "I have the security camera footage, witness statements, and the forensic analysis. It all points to you," Ethan said in a firm voice. "You were driving under the influence of alcohol, and you caused the deaths of Evelyn and Henry." For a moment, Arnold seemed taken aback. Then the arrogance returned to his face. "You don't know what you're talking about. No one will believe you." "We'll see," Ethan replied calmly. "I'm prepared to take this to the authorities and make sure you face the consequences of your actions." The confrontation ended with Arnold silent, aware of the gravity of the situation. Ethan left the house, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. The tension in the air was palpable as Ethan prepared to enter the courtroom. He had spent weeks gathering evidence and statements, facing resistance and disbelief from many. Yet his resolve never wavered. Today he was finally ready to present his case against Arnold. As he entered, the murmurs of the audience died down. Arnold, sitting next to his lawyer, shot Ethan a look of disdain. The room was filled with friends, colleagues, and community members, all waiting to see how the trial would unfold. Ethan took his seat, his mind going over every detail of the evidence he was about to present. He knew that this process was not only about justice for Evelyn and Henry, but also about demonstrating that no one is above the law. The judge banged his gavel, signaling the start of the trial. "The case of the State versus Arnold Miller will now commence," he announced. The prosecutor began by presenting the evidence Ethan had gathered. He showed the security camera footage that captured Arnold's car swerving down the road before the accident. He then presented witness statements confirming that Arnold had been drinking that night. "Mr. Miller, do you recognize this vehicle?" the prosecutor asked, pointing to the image of the car on the screen. Arnold shifted in his seat, his face hardened. "Yes, that's my car," he admitted contemptuously. The prosecutor continued by presenting the forensic analysis, which demonstrated that the car's behavior was consistent with drunk driving. The evidence was clear and compelling. Arnold had caused the accident that killed Evelyn and Henry. When it was Ethan's turn to testify, he stood up and walked with a steady gait to the witness stand. He looked at the judge and the jury, his voice resonating with conviction. "Evelyn and Henry were more than my mentors. They were my family," he said, his voice thick with contained emotion. "I can't stay silent, knowing that their lives were taken because of someone's recklessness." The defense attorney tried to discredit Ethan, suggesting that his motives were personal and not based on justice. "Mr. Ethan, isn't it true that you had a prior dispute with the defendant?" the attorney asked with a sardonic smile. Ethan remained calm, knowing he had to answer clearly. "Yes, we have had disagreements in the past, but that doesn't change the facts. The evidence speaks for itself. Arnold was driving under the influence of alcohol, and he caused the deaths of 2 innocent people." Arnold, feeling his situation becoming desperate, exploded. "Why do you even care?" he shouted, glaring at Ethan with hatred. "They were just 2 black people. Why are you so hell-bent on protecting them?" Ethan looked him straight in the eye, his gaze sharp and full of determination. "Because every life matters," Ethan replied firmly, "and because no one deserves to die because of another person's recklessness." The courtroom fell silent, Ethan's words hanging in the air. The judge banged his gavel to restore order. "Mr. Miller, compose yourself," the judge admonished. After days of testimony and presentation of evidence, the moment of the verdict arrived. The tension in the courtroom was unbearable. The judge looked at Arnold and then at Ethan before announcing his decision. "Arnold Miller, you are found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. You will be sentenced to prison for your actions." The murmur of the audience rose as Arnold was led out of the courtroom by the officers. Ethan felt a mixture of relief and sadness. He had achieved justice for Evelyn and Henry, but the emotional toll had been high. As he left the courthouse, he was greeted by members of the community who had gathered to support him. "Ethan, we're with you," said an elderly woman, taking his hand. "What you did today is important to all of us." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He knew that his fight had not only been for his mentors, but for all those who seek justice and equality. He reflected on the importance of accountability and how his actions could inspire others to speak out against injustice. The sentencing of Arnold marked a close to the painful saga, but also a new beginning for Ethan. He knew that the memory of Evelyn and Henry would live on in his actions and in the positive impact he would continue to make in the community. The morning of the grand opening arrived with a clear sky and a gentle breeze. Ethan stood in front of the newly renovated building, ready to inaugurate the center he had founded in memory of Evelyn and Henry. The Evelyn and Henry Center for Support and Justice stood as a symbol of hope and change, dedicated to protecting and supporting people of color and preventing discrimination and injustice. The community had responded enthusiastically to Ethan's initiative. Families, friends, and colleagues gathered for the inauguration, filling the place with an atmosphere of solidarity and optimism. A stage had been set up in front of the building, adorned with flowers and a large banner announcing the center's mission. "Thank you all for being here today," Ethan began, taking the microphone. "This center is a tribute to two extraordinary people who dedicated their lives to helping others. Evelyn and Henry taught me the value of compassion, integrity, and justice. This is our effort to continue their legacy." Applause erupted as Ethan spoke about the center's first projects and initiatives. One of the main priorities was to provide free legal advice to people facing discrimination. Educational and economic empowerment programs would also be offered to support marginalized communities. "We want this center to be a place where everyone feels safe and supported," Ethan continued. "Here, we will work together to create a more just and equitable future." After the speech, people began to tour the center, exploring the facilities and learning about the services available. Ethan watched with satisfaction as the vision he had shared with Evelyn and Henry began to come to fruition. He felt a deep connection with each person who came up to thank him and offer their support. "Ethan, this place is incredible," said a woman, shaking his hand. "Thank you for making this happen." "I didn't do it alone," Ethan replied humbly. "This is the result of the effort and support of the entire community." The center also had a library and a meeting room where workshops and seminars would be held. Ethan had worked tirelessly to ensure every detail was designed to provide the maximum benefit to those in need. The participation of volunteers and committed professionals had been crucial in the process. As the day wore on, Ethan took a moment to reflect. He stepped away from the bustle and sat on a bench in the center's garden, watching families enjoy the event. He thought about his journey, from the young man who stood up for Evelyn and Henry at the restaurant to now, as the leader of an initiative that could change lives. He remembered Evelyn's words about the importance of doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Their legacy lived on, not just in the center, but in every action Ethan took. The determination and love Evelyn and Henry had shown him continued to guide his steps. "I know they would be proud of you," said a familiar voice. Isabella, his mother, sat down next to him, looking at him with pride. "I hope so," Ethan replied, smiling. "Everything I do is to honor them and follow their example." Isabella took her son's hand, feeling the strength and dedication in him. "You've accomplished so much, Ethan. This center is just the beginning. Your future is full of possibilities. With the continued support of the community, the center began to implement its first programs. Financial literacy workshops and legal aid sessions attracted many people seeking to improve their lives and defend their rights. The positive impact of the center was evident with every success story and every expression of gratitude. Ethan knew there was much work ahead, but he was prepared. Each challenge was an opportunity to grow and learn, and each victory was a step towards a better world. The community rallied around his cause, demonstrating that when people work together, they can achieve great things. The sun began to set, and the inauguration drew to a close. Ethan said goodbye to the attendees, thanking each one for their support. As he looked out at the horizon, he felt a renewed sense of determination. His mission had only just begun, and he was ready to face any obstacle that came his way. "This is just the beginning," he said to himself, his gaze fixed on the future. "For Evelyn and Henry, for all those who need justice and support, I will keep going." With a heart full of gratitude and hope, Ethan walked towards the center's building, knowing that his work would make a significant difference. He honored the memory of Evelyn and Henry, not just with words, but with concrete actions that transformed lives. Hi everyone, it's Ethan, and thank you for joining me until the end of this moving story full of important lessons. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's that kindness and justice always have a positive impact, no matter how small or big our actions are. Sometimes doing the right thing can seem difficult or even costly, but the rewards go beyond the material. They touch hearts and transform lives, both ours and those around us. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more content that inspires and reminds us of the power of courage, compassion, and integrity. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this story, and if you have any similar experiences you'd like to share. See you in the next video. Stay strong, be kind, and keep making the world a better place, one act of kindness at a time.